I'd like to call the January 9th, 2023 Board of Commissioners Business Meeting to order. As always, we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and this evening, our Chief Duffy will lead us.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Deanna, will you do the roll call?
Denise Hall, President.
Here.
Catherine Carter, Vice President.
Here.
Liz McNaney, Commissioner.
Here.
Martha Similaro, Commissioner.
Here.
Ruth Damsker, Commissioner.
Here.
Sandra Zadell, Township Manager.
Here.
Megan Weaver, Assistant Township Manager.
Here.
Nicole Fight, Township Solicitor.
Here.
Nicholas Cross, Township Engineer.
Here.
David Duffy, Chief of Police.
here.
Nathan Crittenton, Finance Director. Van Reeker, Zoning Officer.
Here.
Thank you, Deanna. Nicole, were there any executive sessions?
Yes, President Hall. The board did meet in executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss matters of personnel.
Thank you, Nicole. Next, I would like to turn it over to our chief.
Okay, so every year we give out commendations in the police departments for officers who have gone above and beyond in the call of duty and the performance of their duties. But for the last 2 years, we weren't able to do that publicly. We just held them sometimes individually during the early parts of COVID and then spread out. And now we're finally all able to do this at a public meeting. So we're going to be doing commendations tonight. The next meeting up until the first meeting in March, I think we're going to get through them all when the officers are working. So to start with, I'd like to call up Officer Matt Toro. Our first commendation tonight, every year we give a recognition for an officer who made the most DUI arrests. In some ways, we could look at that as one of the more routine type of calls or incidents that we handle or arrests. However, I was reminded, and the reason why we give this commendation, at a recent department meeting and training, Karen McMenamin from the Montgomery County DA's office put the training on, and among other things she talked about, she described a DUI as one step away from a homicide case, which I thought was a very good way to put it, and I agree that anytime we make these DUI arrests, we're saving at least one life. So with that, and Officer Toro, by the way, is our drug recognition expert, one of only two in the county at this point. So he's called out for impaired drivers under the influence of drugs for our department and other departments as well, especially for serious crashes. The Upper Gwynedd Township Police Department has been steadily increasing DUI enforcement efforts throughout our community. Officers use portable breath tests or training, both marked and semi-marked cars, to conduct regular patrols as part of an ongoing effort to apprehend drunk drivers. Numerous DUI arrests were made in the past year. While all officers in the department were proactive in making these and other arrests, Officer Matt Toro made the most DUI arrests during this period. Officer Toro's efforts in the area of DUI enforcement have undoubtedly saved numerous lives. Therefore, Officer Matt Toro is formally recognized and commended for his dedication to public safety and support of the mission of the Upper Gwynedd Police Department. We're going to keep Matt up here. We're also going to call up Officer Tarter.
I don't think we should give these unless you're
I can go get them.
I don't know if I could get through the presentation with them jumping around. So we started our K-9 unit end of 2021. They got out of basic training. Then in the beginning of this year, of 2022, rather, they went to scent training. And I think it's been a great success. 53 deployments in 10 months in 2022 for searches, for public relations events, for a lot of different things, and some really good success stories. And these were the first two K-9 officers in the department, and they're being recognized for their excellent work with the K-9 unit. The Upper Gwynedd Police Department embarked on the creation of a K-9 unit for the first time since the department's creation in 1951. Officers Ed Tarter and Matt Toro volunteered to be the first K-9 handlers. They were invested in the unit from the very start when the dogs Fury and Gunner were selected from a number of eligible candidates from the Penn Vet Working Dog Center. In addition to doing well in the rigorous training programs, by the way, the training program's really for them. The dogs knew what they were doing, and they still do. Officers Toro and Tartar fully embraced the community relations aspects of the unit and have made several public appearances and conducted several demonstrations. They've also been instrumental in the fundraising efforts, which have included T-shirt and patch sales, as well as a brick display, which both officers worked on and installed together. Therefore, Officers Ed Tartar and Matt Toro are recognized for their going above and beyond expectations in the creation of a successful and effective canine unit, which has improved the reputation of the department and our community relations with the people that we serve. Next is always an important, well, two recognitions. Sergeant Steve Gillen, you want to come on up and thank his family members for coming out tonight. Nice to see you all and have you here with us. So Sergeant Gillen is getting recognized for two things tonight and also happens to be probably his last time in uniform after a really successful career. First is every year we give out a Top Gun Award. We qualify 4 times a year with our firearms. The training's put on by our range instructors, Brant Whistler and John Gill, and it's a lot more than just standing still at a stationary paper target. It involves time shooting, moving and shooting, moving targets, stress courses, decision-making, and through all that, Sergeant Gillen prevailed, even in his, I don't want to say senior, in his experienced years, to be the top gun for 2018, or for 2022. So we'll present you with that first. Congratulations. Another recognition is the officers choose who the Officer of the Year is. So I put out a nomination form in November. Everyone turns them back in, and Sergeant Gillen, for the second time, one of only 2 officers selected for Officer of the Year, is that officer. I'm going to turn the mic over to Deputy Chief Coyola to just read off some of his experience here. And I told him before the meeting I printed it bigger, but he got his glasses.
Today is the last shift for Sergeant Stephen Gillen, 5128 of Upper Gwynedd Township Police Department. Sergeant Gillen began his career with Upper Gwynedd Police on August the 10th, 1989, and was promoted to sergeant in 1997. Sergeant Gillen has served as a patrol officer and patrol sergeant, detective sergeant, and for over 18 years as senior sergeant of the department. His assignments and duties have included, but not limited to, field training officer, member of the County Drug Task Force, member of the North Penn Tactical Team, Mission Kids Forensic Interviewer, member of the Bike and Motor Units, and Public Information Officer. Sergeant Gillen is a graduate of the 248 session of the FBI National Academy. Sergeant Gillen has received numerous official commendations and has been awarded 2 Meritorious Service Medals and 3 Community Service Medals. He was nominated by his fellow officers as Officer of the Year in 2017 and again in 2022, as Chief Duffy mentioned. Only 2 other members have earned that position. On behalf of Upper Gwynedd Township Board of Commissioners, Chief Duffy, myself, and all the members of the Upper Gwynedd Township Police Department, we thank you for your outstanding service to the community. We wish you well on your happy and healthy retirement. Job well done.
Chief, before everyone leaves, can you have Sergeant Gillen and Officers Toro and Tartar come up so the board can shake their hands too? Thanks.
The plaque is for Sergeant Steve Gillen, nominated by his fellow officers for dedication to the department, overall professionalism, and a few of the nominations included, and a great career. So congratulations.
All right, well, I don't need this, but thank you all. I really do appreciate it. It's been an amazing ride, 33 and a half-ish years. An awful lot has changed here. A lot has stayed the same, though. It's still very much a family. You know, all these guys I come to work with every day and put on the uniform with, it's some days are tough, all days are good. So thank you all very much. Thank you all very much.
Sorry. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna be fine. It's healing, so that's good.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. And you got to come back for the next one. I'm sorry. I just realized.
No.
Because we're on here for 10 years.
Yeah, I think I'm working on it.
Oh, you are?
It's fine. I live close by. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Commissioner Hall, we're done. If it's okay with you, dismiss the troops.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You don't have to stay for us. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.
Can I just say something real quick?
Sure, of course.
Officer Sergeant Gillen just said that his last call was to a family member of mine.
Aww.
And that's just, I'm going to be crying right there with your wife right now, because thank you for everything. As a part of, just you meant a lot to my family and to this whole community. So good luck to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I know you are.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay. Next, we have the public comments. Please state your name and if you are a resident or non-resident when you come to the mic. Thank you for respecting the 5-minute rule and practicing decorum. Our goal is to always give you the most complete and correct answers to your questions from our staff who are experts in each of their areas. For that reason, you have the option of enclosing your email address in a registry if you'd like us to reach out to you during the week with a full answer to your questions. We had some residents that were concerned if we answered any questions offline, so to speak, then the residents who wanted to hear the answers publicly would be left out. So we will continue to share any answers to questions that were posed publicly but were answered privately at the following public meeting. This evening, we didn't have anybody register. Is there anyone else who would like to make a public comment who didn't have time? Okay. Then I am going to turn the floor over to our manager, Sandra Zadell.
Thank you, President Hull. I wanted to give an update because for my manager's report, get asked a lot about the status of the fire department study for the building. I spoke with the consultant a couple weeks ago, and he was finishing it up and giving it to DCED, who does the study, and they should be issuing it to us in the next couple of weeks. So it's complete, but DCED gives it its final blessing before they issue it to the community. So we'll make sure to keep everyone informed of that as when we get it. And I'm having a technical difficulty, so I'm trying to, one moment, just get up. Why does it? I have a nice little report about the success of the Gazette. So just one second, there we go. Okay, so we did a little bit of an end of the year review on how the Gazette's been doing. So for distribution, we ended our year with an active list of 1,436 emails versus the 1,379 we started with the Gazette on March 9th. That's a growth of 4%, which I think is great. We also have a great open rate. The highest open rate was 59% on August 17th, and that subject was road resurfacing starts. So these always just kind of crack me up because as much information as we try to put out, people are really interested in roads, police, and those major functions of local government, and you can tell that by the click data. We also had top 5 clicked links were our no-knock registry, a police item, the Wednesday video, which we're all very proud of. And I would like to announce also that we raised about $1,200 for the K-9 unit with the Wednesday video.
Oh, that's great.
And I wish the chief and deputy chief were here because they really, the chief is here. You want to do your dance? No, you're good? Okay. He was definitely out of his element and took one for the team with that one. The capital budget plan, the Arbor Day tree sale, and the K-9 grant. voting. So you can tell people are interested in our police. It's nice they're interested also in the tree sale. And I'm personally happy that they're interested in our budget. So it's nice to be able to pull that kind of data so that we know what to inform residents of in the future. And I wanted to share that with everyone tonight. And that is all I have for my manager's report. Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay. So I will now ask Van Reeker to come up and give us his awesome presentation.
I don't know about awesome, but yeah, I'll try my best. Good evening, everyone. Happy New Year to those of you I haven't wished Happy New Year to yet. On to the report. A few of these, all of these were discussed briefly last time. I'll go over the results. The first four are zoning hearing board appeals. So 1010 Church, that was a special exception. You remember special exceptions are like conditional uses, except that they're adjudicated by the zoning hearing board. That was a request that was approved for a daycare facility. It's that single building that sort of sits by itself at Pembroke Parkway. That was approved. Next is a continuing application of 2221. The Wawa, which is the old 70 Forge property, that started at the last hearing on December 21st. There's additional testimony to be taken, and that will continue in 2 weeks at the January 24th zoning hearing. It may continue beyond that, but it'll be on at least one more evening. That, you'll remember, is to demolish the property as it exists and repurpose it for a Wawa. The matter before the zoning hearing board is the sale and dispensing of gas, of fuel. So that's the consideration, not the land development plan. You all will see that in time. Questions about that one? 1237 Dickerson Road. This is new. It's been, they filed a few months ago residential application for a detached garage in a front yard. It's an interesting application that the owners, the Booklers, own two properties at the intersection of Hancock and Dickerson. So it's an oversized lot. And what they would like to do is, and they're in the process of consolidating the two properties into one property, but they want to build a detached garage. Architecturally, it looks great. It, however, would occupy, it would be, because of the irregularities of the lot, it's now a corner lot, it would occupy the front yard. So they need relief for that. They did need relief for height. They amended their application and reduced the height such that it now does comply relative to height for accessory, which is 14 feet. That will be heard January 24th. Next, 1180 Church Road. This is the big building behind 1010 at Pembroke Parkway and Church Road. That was to occupy the former Safeguard Industries tenancy. And they had requested approval for a special exception for Spirit Gymnastics. We mentioned that last time. They've been in the township for 25 years. That was approved. They're going to move their operation up to a new site. Are there questions about that one? So then two new ones, a land development plan for what is known as the Double Z property, about 2.5 acres at Moyer Boulevard at West Point Pike. You might remember that was the subject of a zoning hearing board application about 10 months ago for a use variance. And they produced a plan. That plan was made a part of the record before the zoning hearing board. It was approved. And that plan, virtually identical to the plan that you all had considered back when it was a zoning hearing board matter, is now before the township as a land development plan. What is addition to that is a small area for overflow parking. The idea would be to minimize or to prevent any on-street parking along Moyer Boulevard. So that's in the land development process. It'll be before the Planning Commission in 2 days. And in a month or three, you'll be seeing it, I suppose, as a matter of, to consider it as a final land development plan. So that's pretty much unchanged. Any questions about that one? That's the same kind of plan that you've seen before. And then finally, this is new, it's a two-lot subdivision, 645 Summitown Pike. It sits at the corner of Summitown and Barberry. And it consists of an oversized property. The simple explanation is the rear part of it, the neighbors have been or are being notified to come to the meeting that they want to, the new owners want to create a conforming single-family lot, a lot to accommodate a single-family home. It complies in every way relative to dimensional limitations under the R2 district. There will be an issue raised by the subdivision, and that is that the existing complex, farmhouse, barn to the rear, and also a detached carriage house, have over the years been used and are being used for 3 residential units. Upon subdivision, any protection that was accrued to that property as a non-conforming use will be lost. So they've been notified, and they'll be given an enforcement notice that to maintain that configuration, upon subdivision, the lot's reduced in size, so that's change of circumstance. They need to file an appeal. It's my position, and I think supported by the solicitor's office. I know it is supported, that they need to appeal to the zoning hearing board. So you'll likely see that issue raised in a month or two. And the issue is that they have a single-family dwelling, that's unit 1. They have a rental apartment in that, it's a big building, a farmhouse, that's unit 2. And then there's an attractive carriage house behind it that is unit 3. So they'll need to come in and talk about that. Neighbors will be notified. They'll all get noticed as they, same group that's being notified for the subdivision will be given notice of, if they choose to continue. They could withdraw those units, in which case there'll be 2 single-family lots. Are there questions on that one?
I have a question.
Yes, Catherine?
Making sure I understand. So the families that live there now, the 3 different units, the property owner that bought, a new property owner bought the property?
That is correct.
So they're not going to be allowed to live there anymore?
Well, the nonconformity runs with the land, so it's protected until there's a change of circumstance. So the fact that it was sold to a new owner doesn't change the circumstance of the nonconformity. So it's now about 1.5 acres, and it's the same. It's got 3 buildings on it, which together contain 3 dwelling units. Now it's a single-family zoning district. So the only way there could be a separate dwelling unit in that circumstance would be if it was a related party, an in-law suite, which these are not. So the new owners are proposing to create a new lot, which will be actually a little bit larger than the lots that exist on the street. And I'm told, but we don't know it as a fact, that one of the partners of the new owners is going to build his or her new house on the new lot. So the neighbors have been notified to come to the planning commission, as is our practice, not a requirement, but our practice to make sure that the neighbors are made a part of the decision-making process. But there'll be a second notice, and the reason I'm indicating, in case you would get phone calls, and Fred Hankin already asked me a couple of questions, which means he doesn't have to speak tonight, is that the neighbors may say, hey, what's going to happen to the residential occupancy? They need approval from the zoning hearing board to keep them, or they would have to be eliminated. So that's...
So the people that are getting the notice are the neighbors, not the people who live in those?
I wouldn't notice the people who live there. They're tenants of...
Okay.
They're basically lessees of the new landlord. So the new landlord gets noticed as the owner.
Right.
And he's going to have to make a decision to either eliminate the extra dwelling units or file an appeal. And I don't know what they're going to do. File an appeal to the zoning hearing board and make their case why 3 dwelling units would be appropriate and should be maintained under the change of circumstance, which means that the front lot, which is now 1.5 acres, is reduced in size. That's the change of circumstance.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Thank you.
Thanks, Van. Nick, you're up. Oh, I'm sorry, Dan. Yeah. Can you come to the microphone? Thank you.
Dan Wallace, 848 Girard Avenue. I don't know if this falls in Vance or your thing, but a few months ago, one lady came and was talking about the blue and white house on South Broad Street and near Garfield. Has there been any update with code enforcement or planning or whatever to clean it up or whatever?
Megan, do you want to answer this one for me, just because you have the most up-to-date info on this?
Yes, so Van actually has been following up with the property owner that lives there. He has had several meetings. Van, I don't know if you...
Answer the question, but...
Van's been the primary one dealing with it.
Megan knows, but, all right, Dan. So, yes,
Should've just asked
it's the blue house. You could have, actually. So there's a long history to it, and I'm not going to go through it tonight unless you want me to, but it has been a property that we've been watching for about 10 years, since it was Ed's Greenhouse. And along the way, it's evolved into what we have today. So there's certainly a maintenance issue. The new owner knows it. We see 2 fundamental problems with its current operation. A, the trash and the maintenance, the lack of thereof on the property. He has indicated to me and to Dan Quimby, and he's in the process of cleaning that up. It's a slow process. We're not happy with it, but he says he's going to clean up all the brush and the trees and the debris. I went over there Friday or Saturday, and there was somebody was working there to help to start cleaning it up. I'm told that in a week or 2, a truck will come to the property, and the brush and the weeds and the paper and the tree trunks and all that kind of stuff, litter will be removed. That's the understanding we have with the owner. The second issue is the manner in which the house is being occupied. And we believe that it is not currently being occupied as not even a traditional, as an acceptable single-family dwelling, which under the Federal Fair Housing Act basically defines a family as, or the equivalent, the functional family equivalent. So we met with Mr. Nance about that issue as well. He was unaware of the regulations or the requirements of Upper Gwynedd. I explained them to him in great detail. He indicated to me that in a short period of time, many of those occupants will be leaving because his family is coming over from their homeland, which I believe he said is Bangladesh, and they will be joining him in America. I indicated to him that the only acceptable arrangement would be that there would be no renters, meaning all of the current people who are renting in that property would have to leave, otherwise it becomes two dwelling units, unless they're related to him. He knows that. We've been in touch with him in writing. I guess we're in a situation now where we're allowing some time for him to address and answer the issues, and or if he fails to do so in some reasonable period of time, I suppose in 60 days, we'll then have to, the next step is for us to re-notify and take the case to the district justice. Our hope is that we don't need to do that. Any questions on that?
Before I turn it, any other questions on that? Okay. Before I turn it over to Nick, I just wanted to give a report on one more item that I think will be of note to the public, that the Country Bride and Gent and the Sumney buildings will likely be demolished in the coming weeks. We did get a demolition permit in for those properties. So I think they're being demolished in preparation for a sale to a new owner. So,
And they're still owned by the current owners.
yes, the current owner still owns them.
Great.
Okay, now it's your turn, Nick.
Thanks, Sandra. A couple of things to mention tonight. The first is for the Dickerson Road Drainage Improvement Project. Coordination is still ongoing and progressing with the underground utility companies that were in conflict with one of the portions of the pipe installation. So once that gets wrapped up, we'll be able to install that last little portion of pipe. But most of the construction has been completed for that project. And then for the 2023 road program, this road program is being prepared for public bid. It should go out to bid next week. And that will put the township in a good position to get, good bid prices that come in, and then for the work to be completed as early as possible so that none of the work will stretch into the school year this year. And that's all.
Thanks, Nick. And you know that that's the topic of most interest in our Gazette when it goes out, so it's very important. Okay. The item 12 on the agenda, the staff departmental reports will be entered for the consent agenda, as well as items 13 and 14, which are the minutes. And I will turn it back over to President Hull for the item 15, which is a decision item.
Yes. Do we have a motion to approve the reappointment of John West as Chair of the Environmental Advisory Council?
So moved.
We have a motion in stereo. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any board comments? Do we have any public comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And I would also like to say that John West is just doing a fantastic job. I'm sure Martha agrees with me. Just a fantastic job. He takes it so seriously. He has got, yes, he has amazing leadership. And we're so excited by all the endeavors that the EAC is coming up with by the day. Yes. Thanks. Back to you, Sandra.
Including one that's just 2 items away on the agenda. So, item 16 is a proclamation designating February as Black History Month in Upper Gwynedd Township. I would assume that maybe next month, when you make this a decision item, we could read through the proclamation, unless you want me to do it now, but usually that's for the regular meeting. The next item, the EAC is looking to submit a grant application for the We Can Serve PA program. It is a regional trails workshop grant that, that is dedicated to some activities for adults and families with children age 5 and above. It would involve several speakers, games and crafts for the children, a trail walk with a scavenger hunt, and possibly vendor tables, as well as educational materials and giveaways related to trail use. That would be proposed for early spring of 2023. The deadline for the grant application is January 25th, and it's a 20% matching grant, which the EAC would match with their budgetary funds. Any questions? Okay. There is nothing additional tonight under Commissioner Carter's section for public safety. And I'm going to pass the zoning and planning and code enforcement section over to Megan, my assistant manager.
So the first item under there is updating the fee resolution. As you know, we did do this back in April, and 2 things have come up. They're very minor in nature. One is kind of looking at the language for the grading permit. So as we set up the escrow accounts, we're just adding language in. That way, if they already have an escrow account set up, it would just come from that escrow account. And then the other item that's being changed is in the police section. We're proposing to reduce the fee to make it consistent with the state reportable accident report. That would go from $22 a report to $15 a report. And it's been that way probably since about 2015, and we're just changing it to be consistent. The next item would be for also updating the escrow fee resolution. So we established having escrow accounts set up to the developer, and we're not changing any of the deposit amounts. However, what does need to be updated is what we are billed from our professionals. Those rates went up from 2022 to 2023. So that's just essentially billing the developer through their escrow at what we are being charged at as a township. So those went up slightly with the 2023 rates. And then the last item would be the approval of the escrow release for the shops at Upper Gwynedd. And this would be their very last escrow release for phases 3 and 4 of their project. Phases 1 and 2 are still in the maintenance period, and this would not impact that. It would just be for the last 2 phases, which was the pad site and the daycare.
On a personal note, I think that that is the first project I saw from the beginning to the end as township manager here. So that's exciting to see it sort of come to fruition and completed, but that would be ripe for the consent agenda. So, anything else, Megan?
No, does anyone have any questions on those?
So the daycare is completed now?
Yes.
Is it open?
Yes, well, they received their use and occupancy. I don't know if if they have children there yet.
Okay, next up is, are there any questions from the public? No? Okay. Next up is the Public Works Park and Recreation section of the agenda. We are looking for the board to appoint a new park board member. Rob Morse was interviewed through our process and is being recommended for this position. He serves on our IDA and is a volunteer in the community, so it looks like he's a good match for that position, and you guys will be voting on that next week. And then Skelly's has, our contracts with Skelly's run a couple years at a time, and they've suggested a couple changes for their contract for the carnival. Essentially, they're looking so rides currently are about 2 to 5 tickets, depending on the ride. They're looking to change the ride amount of tickets to 1 to 3, so that's a lot less tickets. But they are raising the price of the tickets slightly. So like it's $12, it's $20 for a pack of 12 versus $20 for a pack of 24, but you need to use less tickets to ride rides. So it's kind of tricky. The other option that they're extending to us, which I really like, and we'll see how it goes this year, is pre-sale for mega bands. So traditionally, the first 2 nights of the carnival were just mobbed with selling mega bands. I'm looking at Megan because we're always in the ticket booth together, getting money hand over fist. But being able to pre-sell, we would pre-sell probably a month in advance, and you can sell them at a discounted rate at $45 per mega band instead of $50. And it'll hopefully cut down on the lines, the waits. People could come to the carnival just with their wristband on, ready to ride. So I think that's a good change in the contract. Not much else has significantly changed. The contract's been reviewed by our solicitor. So does anyone have any questions about that? Yes.
I guess my question is if we're giving out less, if they're going to take less tickets, is one of the reasons that the lines won't be as long?
Well, I think the lines last year were so long because we had so many people attend and the weather was so beautiful. I don't know that it's going to make the lines for the rides shorter, but it will make any ticket booth action a little easier to handle. So for example, on our end, we have to reconcile all of those tickets. The smaller amount of tickets means less reconciliation for township staff, and probably just less for parents to keep track of, things like that. I hope that we can work with Skelly's to have them bring more rides, and I know Sarah's looking to expand the footprint of the carnival because I think that that is, ever since COVID, this event has just really expanded. We've been so lucky to have such a loyal following for our carnival, and I think next year we'll just be looking to expand and maybe make some changes with where the fireworks, because currently we can only put it on the small footprint we currently use because the fireworks are in the field right behind it. So we may have to move the fireworks a bit and try to make it so that this footprint's larger so that Skelly's can bring more rides, which would cut down on the line times. But other than that, it's just the line times are what they are.
I guess one of the things I had thought about in terms of the lines, I don't know, maybe we can talk to Sarah and Scully, I don't know, but when we were in Disney World, one of the things that Disney World does is that they stop, when they see the line getting longer, instead of you going around like 3 times, it only take you around like 2 times. So that means you still ride the ride, but it gets people on and off a lot faster. And
the people that work the ride only do like 2
Right.
spins around instead of, yeah, we could talk to Skelly's about that, but they kind of handled that.
I know, I'm
That's
just,
like-
as a, my family, was there and the lines, they were just,
Especially Saturday night, they were crazy, yeah.
they took home tickets because it was, the lines were so long,
Right.
they just didn't get a chance to use all the tickets. And I wouldn't, especially Friday and Saturday nights when all the tweens are there.
Yes,
So
yeah.
crowded.
We can definitely check with them about that. I'll talk to Sarah. The other thing I wanted to note is the only other like really significant change in the contract is that on Sunday, the hours of operation will be 1 hour shorter, which I think makes sense. Sunday's typically the slowest, yeah. Well, Thursday's the slowest, Sunday's the second slowest, but I don't think that that hour will make a huge difference. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. I didn't mention it, but both 21 and 22 could be consent items. And I will send it back to you, Commissioner Hall, because item 23 has a decision.
Do we have a motion to approve the cleaning and televising of the sanitary sewer mains and laterals in the North Pump Station Basin by CoStar's vendor Utility Services Group in the amount of $382,000?
So moved.
We have a motion and we have a second. Do we have any board comments?
Yeah, just want to make sure that everybody understands that has been approved in the budget 2023 to do this. So, and it will be completed in 2023.
Thank you, Commissioner Similaro. I was going to mention that same thing. And this is just part of that large I&I work that we have scheduled for this year and probably the next few years to help reduce the flow of clean water coming to the plant.
Great. Do we have any public comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
And we did that as a decision item because it's a slow time for some vendors and we wanted to be able to get our work done. Like they might be out next week starting that work. So thanks for considering that decision item. Next up, which would go to the consent agenda, is the approval in full spray of chimney seal linings and manholes. We had an awesome article in the Gazette this week that displays exactly what we're talking about when we say spray lining. It was written by Jim O'Mara, and I wanted to just give a little plug because I thought he's an excellent writer. So I've suggested that he be the editor for other wastewater articles that come our way because he did a great job. And hopefully our residents learned something from it. It's an important project and that will go on the consent agenda.
It was great. It was really informative.
Yeah.
It was
Very.
excellent.
And it was in language that regular people could understand.
Yes, yeah. That's always the trick
Non-wastewater.
when we're talking about wastewater.
Yes.
Yeah, lots of acronyms.
Like the pictures too.
And that,
Yeah.
and that's
Well,
also.
there's another one coming. Dylan, one of our employees. The cool thing is the department heads help us come up with content for the Gazette by asking their staffs to put things together. And Dan, our wastewater director, has tasked every employee with writing an article. And so we're getting this really great series. Dylan just submitted his article to me, which you'll see in an upcoming, and it just cracked me up because it's almost all pictures. So I was like giggling like, okay, Dylan's telling his story. He's a visual storyteller, but it was great. And I think because they're involved in the work, they know how, they've certainly taught me everything I know about wastewater. So, and probably most of you as well. So they're great staff.
Absolutely.
Sandra, that's also approved in the budget.
Yes, correct. Yeah. And then there'll just be the regular open and paid invoices next week. And that's all I have.
Great, excellent. Does anyone else on the board have anything else? All right, then thank you so much for joining us this evening. Meeting's adjourned.